Hey there, future teacher, and welcome to a CBEST test prep lesson. My name's Elliot Zelinskis, and I'll be your instructor helping you pass your upcoming exam. Now, in this lesson, we are talking exclusively about the writing portion, section number 3 of the CBEST test. And by the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding for the types of writing prompts that you will likely see on test day, as well as how your essay is scored. We'll go over the scoring rubric, and we'll give you a high overview lesson of how to write a passing response so that you can pass this on your next try. All right, so I'm already logged into teacherpreps.com, and I've just navigated to the section called Essay Workshop. And what we're going to do is we're going to go straight on down through this. So let's first and foremost make sure that we're in the right place. Now, this is the exam for anyone who wants to become a California credentialed teacher, and this is the section of the CBEST called the writing portion. Now, while taking your exam, you will receive 2 essay prompts that will ask you and require you to write 2 essays. And essay number 1 is all about asking you to analyze a situation or a statement. So let's pause right here and let's go to the official testing agency's CBEST practice test, where in section 3, they actually give us a topic 1 and a topic 2. So again, topic number 1 is all about analyzing a situation or a statement. So what we can do is we can study their practice exam to better understand what we will likely see when we actually take it. So topic number 1 here says, Ernest Hemingway once commented, "As you get older, it is harder to have heroes, but it is sort of necessary. In an essay to be read by an audience of educated adults, state whether you agree or disagree with Hemingway's observation. Then support your position with logical arguments and specific examples." So we'll pause right there, and we notice that you are going to be asked to whether you agree or disagree with a quote or a situation or a small text passage. Now let's move on to what you can likely see for essay number 2. And that is that you will be asked to write about a personal experience of yours. And again, in order to better understand what you will likely see on test day, what we can do is we can scroll down to topic number 2 and read that. And topic number 2 reads, "Most students have had some type of difficulty in one course or another. Difficulties stem from various sources such as teacher-student conflicts or lack of interest in the subject field. In an essay to be read by an audience of educated adults, identify one class in which you faced a difficulty either as a student or as a teacher. Describe the difficulty and explain how you handled the situation." So that's what you can expect to receive on topic number 2. And again, in a short condensed sentence, you're going to be asked to write about a personal experience. So now what I want to do is I want to go over some key testing tips to help you kind of brainstorm how you might logically set up and structure your essay. So remember, when writing your essay, whether it's for topic 1 or topic 2, you always want to specifically stick to the given topics. Make sure not to go off on a tangent too far away. Secondly, you want to cover every point that is asked of you in the essay prompt. And then third, you always really want to back up your claims, your thesis, your hypothesis, what you believe, or just what you state in your essay response with specific examples. All right, so now let's keep on going, and what we're going to do is we're going to skip past this section because this is written in a different way than what is right here. And I think this is really clearly and directly stated. So now let's move on to this lesson where we're going to be talking about the writing scale that you are actually graded upon. Remember, you are asked to write an essay, actually 2 of them for this section, and then real testing administrators are going to be grading your essay. So let's ask ourselves, let's understand what they want to see. So I've broken this down in my own words, and they are grading you based off a 4-point scale system. And a score of 4, which is what you're aiming for, it's the top score, that simply means that you wrote a well-informed essay. Now, before we go on down to the subpoints, let's understand what a score of 3 is. Now, a score of 3 means that you adequately formed your writing essay. It means you covered the majority of the points and you provided examples. They probably weren't as in-depth as they could have been, but you provided what they were looking for. Then we move on to a score of 3, which is a partially formed writing response. You may have skipped over 1 or 2 parts. You may have could have gone further into depth with your examples, or perhaps too much of the spelling and grammar were off. Okay? And then score of 1 simply means that you inadequately completed the essay prompt. Now, in a special use case, we have 2 different other scores that you can receive, which is the U, and that stands for unscorable. It basically means that you wrote something on a different topic than what was asked for you or from you. Secondly is you can also receive a B for blank, and that more than likely means that you didn't have enough time to complete that essay prompt. So now let's go back up to a score of 4, because that's really what we're aiming for. And what I can do is I can zoom in so that we can read it a little bit easier. So a score of 4 means that you clearly presented your central idea or your viewpoint, and your reasoning is logical. It is sound. Okay? Oftentimes that means that it is concise, it is well structured, and that you have nailed or included all of the points that they have asked. Now, secondly, we have organization as another point that the test administrators are scoring you upon, and this means, again, that your ideas are logically arranged using the standard conventions of English. You know the difference between where to put a comma, a period, and exclamation mark versus question mark. Also, if it's appropriate to have a beginning, middle, and end, you will put actual return spaces so that you will have paragraphs instead of just one long big chunk of a text passage. And thirdly, you are evaluated on support and development, and I believe that this is one of the key aspects of how you can really bump up from a 3 to a 4, and that is by providing relevant and detailed evidence, oftentimes based off you yourself, your experiences. That might be something that you've read, an experience in the classroom that you've had either as a student or a teacher, and or a travel experience is something that you watched or listened to, but you can back up your thesis, your claim, or your statement. And also, this is a teacher education certification exam, and so the people who are grading more than likely have background experience in an educational field. So if you can use key terminology that teachers really use, such as phonological or phonemic awareness, concepts about print, if you're talking about reading, if you're talking about math, you might be using, hands-on, blocks instead of, worksheets, or, use that teacher lingo and act and write like you are already a professional teacher, and that will impress the graders. All right, now let's move on to the next point that your administrators are looking for. And again, we kind of mentioned this before. This is the structure of how you write. So you're not going to want to write just one block of a text passage, but instead you're going to want to have your sentences vary in length, your punctuation different, use a semicolon, sometimes use a period, make sure to add those commas, and again, don't have one block of a text passage, split it up, if appropriate, into different paragraphs. And then finally, and this sounds like, of course this should be, but make sure the topic is relevant based on the prompt. So don't go ahead and write whatever you want to write. Instead, write what they want to see. Okay? Now let's move on. We're going to go past 3 and 2 and 1 because what we're shooting for is a score of 4. And what I did is I created a really high overview. Now this writing test prep will have 3 different lessons, and this is lesson number 1. So if you're watching it, you're in the right place. However, in lesson 2 and 3, I'm actually going to show you how to write essay 1 and 2. But right now, what I want to do is give you a high-level overview of the types of mindset and thinking and basic principles of how to write a passing score for your CBEST essay. So we have this CBEST essay writing workshop, and what I want to do is give you the formula for a passing score. So let's click next, and this slide is all about essay number 1. Remember, you'll have a total of 2 different essays, and so what you want to do, if you're watching this, you might want to take a screenshot here or take your notes and write this down. Now remember that essay 1 is all about asking you whether you agree or disagree based upon a text passage or some situation that's presented to you. And what I highly recommend is to read and reread the prompt, because you can't answer something completely if you don't totally understand it yourself. Okay, so make sure that you understand the prompt fully. Second, form your thesis. You can always think before you write, and I highly recommend that you do. Remember, a thesis statement shares what you believe, what you think is true. So if essay 1 is asking you whether you agree or disagree about a certain topic, remember in the example that is given from the actual testing agency, we're asked whether you agree or disagree with Hemingway's observation. And what you can say is whether or not you agree or disagree and why, and that is your thesis statement. It's what you believe in one topic sentence right from the get-go. So make sure that your argument is clearly structured. We've talked about this with the correct spelling, grammar, punctuation, and again, structure with the topic sentence at the top, the conclusion sentence at the bottom, and then make sure that you have a beginning, middle, and end. Now, think about writing techniques. Think about how you might be able to show, instead of just tell the test administrator how they can find what they're looking for, because they're grading lots of essays, and so you want to make your answers clear and quick and easy to find. Write your answer in the first sentence, and then underneath that sentence or after that sentence, that's when you give your different examples, and that's how you back up your thesis with pieces of evidence, okay? And then lastly, every single time before you click the submit button, make sure you reread what you wrote. I can't tell you how many times I write an email every day, or when I personally took the CBEST exam. I mean, after you finish writing, all you want to do is click submit and then go on and not even look back at it. But every time that I personally write something, I try my best to go up and reread, and each time I reread, I always find a mistake. I may have written you instead of your, or I may have just not shared something in the most logical order, and so you want to do a writing and then you want to do a rewriting. All right, now let's go on to essay number 2. And here's the guide. Again, take a screenshot if you're watching this, or grab your notes and write it by hand. Remember that essay number 2 is going to ask you to share about a personal experience. And in order to better understand that, we can go back to essay number 2, where we had the prompt about where you have faced personal difficulty, whether as a student or a teacher, but in the classroom. Find a connection to your own personal life so that you can share it to the test administrator in a meaningful way. Now, when writing or responding to essay prompt number 2, you want to first identify the experience. Go back in your Rolodex of experiences within the classroom as being a teacher or student yourself. Maybe select 3 that first come to mind. Write them down in a list, and then circle the one that you feel that you can best provide evidence and support in order to most correctly answer the prompt. Next, describe the context and do it in a vivid and detailed way. Third, explain the challenge and really allow the test administrator to feel the pain or the challenge or the difficulty that you experienced, okay, so that they really understand it. And don't just say that you had a hard time reading or writing or doing the math or making friends or whatever the thing was, but say why that was. Go a level deeper. Your test administrator will appreciate your vulnerability and your openness to share such a thing. And second to last, you want to discuss your response using details as well as including, this is a big one right here, the outcome of what happened. So if you had trouble, for example, making friends at the recess kind of square or in Foursquare or something like that when you were a child, not only share the difficulty, like I said, share why, share how you overcame it if you could, and then share, what resulted in that. Maybe you became, you made friends, or you were the captain of some club or something like that. All right, and then finally, again, make sure that you reflect on what you wrote. Share the lessons in a way that you can wrap everything up in a bow, where you took the prompt, you answered it in full detail, you revisited what you wrote, you clarified anything that may have felt confusing to you as you wrote it, and then you end it with writing the examples, and you make sure that you have stated your experiences in a clear and logical way. All right. Now, just overall key tips for success that really helped me to write a passing score for my CBEST exam is, first and foremost, you've got to stay on topic. If the test administrator sees you go way out of left field, they're going to think that you can't focus on one specific text passage. So make sure that you are sticking with what they're looking for. Secondly, examples, examples, examples. These help clarify as well as connect you with your own experiences. And then, as I've mentioned, you're becoming a professional teacher. This is a professional career exam, so make sure that your writing comes off in a professional tone. All right, at the end, I hope that this video helps you better understand A, the types of questions that you will likely see when taking your written response portion of your CBEST test, B, a better understanding for the rubric, and then C, this structural guide and understanding of how to write a passing response. Now, this is the end of lesson number 1, but make sure that you watch lesson number 2 and 3, where I actually use our AI essay grader to better understand whether or not I would be able to write a passing response. All right, I'll see you in those videos. Take care.